President Biden working through the weekend, Vlad?
Yeah, that's right. He's got a busy schedule today as he meets with several world leaders in Rome. He kicked off his second major trip abroad with an audience with the Pope. Here are images from the president and the pontiff's meeting earlier this morning. A White House official says there was laughter and, quote, clear rapport between the president and His Holiness as they met for nearly 90 minutes. Now, before departing for Europe yesterday, President Biden unveiled a scaled-back version of his social spending plan. The new framework includes big investments in health care and clean energy initiatives. The president is still hoping to get enough lawmakers on the same page to hold a vote. For more on this, let's bring in CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang, who is traveling with the president, and that beautiful backdrop in Rome. Weijia, great to see you.
It's not bad, right?
Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Following your Instagram. Looks lovely. So this highly anticipated meeting with the Pope was a little bit more limited than had been anticipated. Why were there restrictions on the press?
So you're right, Vlad. Usually there would be a live coverage not only from the Vatican press, but also the White House press pool, which of course is always traveling with the president and documenting his every move. But that was restricted this time around. The Vatican saying it's because of COVID restrictions, but certainly the White House Correspondents Association, including our dear colleague, the president, Stephen Portnoy, pushed for access, pushed White House officials to talk with the Vatican to try to be able to get in there to get some pictures, but it just didn't happen. We did, however, as you just saw, get some official pictures from the Vatican and video as well. So we do have coverage. It just wasn't the typical live coverage that we would normally get with live, emails and notes coming from inside of the room, at least when they were greeting each other publicly. Now, privately, we wouldn't have been in there, but we do know that they met for 75 minutes face-to-face, which is unusual, according to, if you look at the other time logs in recent memory of other presidents. The Pope met for about 50 minutes one-on-one with President Obama and 30 minutes with President Trump. So this was a very long and personal meeting.
So this is the fourth time the president and the Pope have actually met in person. What's significant about this meeting, and do we know what they probably discussed?
We just got some notes from the Vatican, and as expected, they covered, the climate crisis, how to help the poor, the economic global recovery, how to end the pandemic with more vaccine sharing. But you're right, Anne-Marie, this is also a very private and personal time for President Biden, because the last time they met, the Pope offered comforting words to President Biden about his late son, Beau, who had just passed not long before. So these are not two strangers. They've met many times before, and they've talked about things other than what was on the official agenda. And we know that President Biden is a deeply devout Catholic, and he talks about his faith all the time, which is rare compared to the other American president, John F. Kennedy, who, had to deal with a lot of controversy because he was openly Catholic. And so I think, we spoke to experts this morning who told us this is a really significant meeting, not only for these two leaders, but also for the Catholic community. Even though, of course, the president's visit came with some controversy, as you guys have been talking about and reporting on. Some American bishops have been quite critical of the president because of his view about a woman's right to choose with regard to abortion.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, Weijia. Oftentimes, when you and the rest of the White House press corps are in those briefings with Jen Psaki, oftentimes there are members of the press, some who work for Catholic or faith institutions, who ask Jen Psaki about the president's position and how it might be in conflict with his religious beliefs. What's been the typical response from Psaki?
So President Biden has made very clear that his personal view as a Catholic is different and has to be separated from his official capacity as President of the United States. And in his official role, he believes that it is up to the woman to choose what to do with her body. And that is the point of contention, because other more conservative Catholics believe there shouldn't be a separation between his personal beliefs and what he does as president. But Jen Psaki has also made very clear that he will continue to advocate on behalf of women to preserve Roe v. Wade and to support women in any way that the federal government can if they so choose to get an abortion. But, you know, it is difficult. It's a tough issue for President Biden that he has had to deal with, not only as president, but even when he was a senator. But, you know, I think that despite how many times Jen Psaki or the president is asked about it, the answer will remain the same, which is, you know, he believes one thing, but believes another when it comes to implementing rules and regulations for people who are not Catholic.
So the president is actually in Italy for the G20 Summit. He is going to meet, we expect, face-to-face with French President Emmanuel Macron. So this is the first face-to-face meeting since that brouhaha about the nuclear-powered submarines and Australia, which resulted in a deal between the U.S. and Australia to make these nuclear-powered submarines, and a canceled deal between Australia and France, which France, you know, really saw as a betrayal. I think the phrase was it was a stab in the back. So now they have to mend fences and rebuild trust. How do we expect this meeting to go?
Well, I think it'll be a little bit awkward because the French, they were so vocal about criticizing America and President Biden. And you're exactly right, saying that they went behind the French and you know, brokered this deal that cost them tens of billions of dollars. I mean, this was no small deal that Australia had with France. And so they recalled their ambassador. They canceled events that were meant to celebrate the U.S. and French relationship. And they certainly, to say the least, expressed their disappointment. And so even though Secretary of State Antony Blinken has tried to smooth things over, even though Macron and the president have had a call, this is very different because they have to meet face to face. However, you know, they have such a long-standing allyship that I think both parties realize they have to find some compromise and have to be able to smooth this over somehow.
So, Weijia, let's talk about who's not attending this G20 summit in person due to COVID. That would be Russia's leaders and China. They're not going to be there in person. So what does that mean for the talks that these two leaders, along with the president, could potentially hold if they're doing it virtually? Or do we know if it's going to be virtually?
I think that both leaders have publicly said that they will tune in virtually. Most recently, President Xi Jinping of China, and there was some doubt there whether he was going to or not. Of course, the U.S. has criticized China lightly for not coming, but apparently President Xi has not left the country since COVID erupted. And so both of these nations are saying that they are keeping their leaders back because we are still in the middle of a global pandemic. But when you look at the agenda for the G20, remember this is the summit for 20 of the world's richest countries that make up 80% of the world's economy. So certainly they'll be talking about the global economy. They'll be talking about the major supply chain issues, a lot of which originate in China because their manufacturing has come to, if not a halt, certainly a slower pace because of COVID restrictions.
Weijia, thank you very much.